Welcome to Doc Talk, a weekly podcast featuring Monument Health physicians addressing medical topics. Tune into your health with Monument Health. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Doc Talk with Monument Health. My name is Mark Houston, and today I've got kind of a special episode with Dr. Kyle Lemley and Dr. Tamra Lemley, a husband and wife team, both working in pediatric care at Monument Health. Not only are they helping kids and families every day, but they're balancing marriage and work and raising a family themselves. We'll start by hearing a bit about how they navigate life as a married couple in medicine, and then we're going to dive into summer safety, how parents can help their kids stay safe, healthy, and happy through all the fun and sometimes very risky outdoor adventures that happen this summer. So welcome both of you to the podcast. Dr. Lemley, Kyle, you have been on a handful of these already. You know the drill. Tamra, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I could tell when you got here that you were ready, so it's so nice to have you both in the studio again.
We're putting her in the hot seat today.
So you're going to sit back and just relax and see how she does?
That's my plan.
All right, perfect. This is great. Well, let's start with the two of you. How did you meet, and what led you both into pediatric care?
We met the second week of medical school, right before the first anatomy quiz.
Wait a minute.
Tell the truth.
I had finished studying, was getting ready to go to the beach and hang out the rest of the day. And she came down the stairs and was like, "Do you know what's on the anatomy quiz on Monday?" I was like, "You're either the smartest person I've ever met in my life or the dumbest person I've ever met in my life. But you have a really nice smile, so I'll teach you what's on the quiz." Long story short, we became best friends first semester of medical school, started dating in January, engaged in March, and married in July.
Well, wait a minute. Now, was this like a long con for you? Did you know everything that was happening? And you were like, I'm just going to see if I can get this guy's number. Is that how it worked?
No. I was the person that didn't learn how to study until I went to medical school. So
You learned how to study in medical school?
Well, let's not go that far, but I needed somebody to, study with me. So I had to stay.
Well,
close.
what a great plan. You both seem to find the smartest two people in the room, right? Which you both were, I'm assuming. And then you hook up, and then it turns into this life right now. It
actually worked out really well. I'm more of an auditory processor, and he's more visual. So he would read everything, and then we'd talk about it. And by talking about it, I would remember it. So
that's really interesting. So you guys,
that's the only reason she kept me around.
That's a great team right there for sure. Well, what is it like? What's it like working together in the same hospital in the same field? I mean, do you guys have like ground rules that you set for this, or strategies that you guys use?
Not really.
Really?
I mean, we started, so when we were in residency together, we were a year apart, so he was a year ahead of me. So we didn't ever work he was never directly my boss until this job here at Monument, where now he is. But we worked in different roles, so that I was a pediatric hospitalist, but he's a pediatric intensivist. So we're a little bit different in exactly what we're doing. So for the most part, we're just more like colleagues working together versus like one person telling the other person what they're doing.
Well, now explain the difference between a hospitalist and what did you say?
An intensivist.
An intensivist.
So
Lord.
The intensivist runs the pediatric ICU, so they take care of the really sick kids that after birth up to age 18. So not the NICU where the little tiny babies go, but just if you're in intensive care as a kid after that, then you go see him. I do the well baby nursery and then the regular pediatric floor. So if you come back to the hospital and you're sick but not too sick, then you see me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I can do her job, but she can't do my job.
So they
Wait
say.
a minute. Now, I gotta let everybody know on this podcast right now, Kyle, that you will be able to take your jabs only with one arm in this room right now. Okay.
That is true. That is true.
You had a skiing mishap back in January and just got it fixed.
I got ran over by a snowboarder in January.
Snowboarders shouldn't even be allowed on the mountain.
Except we have two of them.
Okay.
And tore my labrum, which if you know, the shoulder is a ball and socket joint. So the socket part of that is lined by a tissue called the labrum. And mine was torn almost from top to bottom, all on the front side. And so just got it repaired early May, and I still can't move it. I just didn't want to have my sling on during the podcast.
Did you even see this guy coming when he hit you?
No, I was downhill from him and was carving and going to the right and
just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Some hot dog.
Ended up with two big dings on my helmet too. So when we talk about helmet safety,
we are going to do that coming
important.
up. Look at you. You are a living example. This is even better right now. Now there's got to be a lot of unique challenges in the field that you guys do, of course. How do you guys support each other when it's been a tough or emotional day? Because that has to happen, unfortunately, every once in a while.
I think just like any other husband and wife would support each other. Everyone at work knows that we're married, so it's not like we are just colleagues at work. Everyone knows we're married, and so hug or whatever on the floor and stuff. And so after a death that I have in the unit, either at home or at work or whatever, Tamra will just listen. She's finally learned this year that sometimes I just want her to listen and not fix something. And so she's kind of started being like, are you wanting me to fix this or just listen? I'm like, I just need you to listen. And
that's
she's
a
like,
great
oh, okay.
That's a great question, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because then you have those ground rules set and you know what to do at that point.
Well, because I'm the female and she's the male. So she wants to fix it and I just want to be heard. So she finally learned that.
I am learning so much more about you, Kyle, and I've talked to you a lot already. All right?
I'm surprised it wasn't evident to begin with.
I think our kids maybe have benefited or suffered, however you'd like to say it, from maybe more of our jobs than we have from if there's been a death or someone who's been really sick and it's close to the age of one of our kids at that time, like it may hit a little bit closer to home, or you come home and hug that kid just a little bit tighter just because you're thankful that your kids are healthy. But then also like some of the precautions that we take, our kids are like, why? Like, if you knew what we knew, you wouldn't be okay with this. And so sometimes they're like, yeah, this is what happens when both your parents are pediatricians. So
we'll eventually get to trampolines. But to Tamara's point, one of our kids was at a party several years ago when we were still in Wichita, and they were out jumping on the trampoline, and they were going to get up on the garage and jump off the garage onto the trampoline. And Logan said, guys, my dad's working tonight. I really don't want to go see him. Let's not
break our necks tonight.
You know, that's interesting because now you said you had 5 children.
Yes.
And your kids are out there right now kind of spreading the good word for you, though, too. You've got them out in the field, with their friends being like, look, I know this would be fun right now, but just let's look at the whole scope of what this entails at this moment.
They still do plenty of adventurous things, but just, the potentially breaking your neck, they drew the line, thankfully, at that. So, are you guys ever able to turn off the medical talk, like when you go home, or is it something that's just all the time? Because you're both passionate about what you do, you're both in this same field. Do you guys ever get to just have a conversation about terrible sports teams or anything like that you guys have interest in?
Yes and no. Mostly no. A little yes.
Yeah.
We try.
We, depends on what we're talking about and where we are. We'll focus on whatever that thing is. But, we've grown up together, right, in the field of medicine. We got married just before we turned 24, and just before the second year of medical school. So, this is what we've known together, and so it's something that we love. And we try not to talk about, patients or other specific things, but it's just a big part of us and who we are. So we do talk about it a lot. If we're on a marriage conference, we don't really touch on it there. Skiing vacations or other vacations, it's not that it's off limits. It just doesn't come up, but if something happens and it comes up, we don't shy away from it either. So.
Have you guys solved problems together in pediatrics? Question you've had, you're like, this is interesting. I'm not sure.
That's the only way we function.
Really?
Yeah. Well, being a peds ICU doctor, doing the extra training, I am no longer a general pediatrician. I am, but I don't remember a lot of the general pediatric stuff.
Right.
So when I have a kid in the ICU, then I'm like, oh, this is a rash. I don't know what to do. I'm like, hey, Tamra, will you come take a look at this rash? Because I don't know what it's. And she knows if they don't need to be intubated or if they're not trying to die.
Yeah.
She knows that I'm not going to necessarily be the best at it. So, and then vice versa. But
Okay. Well, that has to be such a boon for pediatrics and Monument Health. I mean, to have that kind of knowledge working together all the time can only benefit the kids that unfortunately end up being there, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Exactly.
But to be fair, I mean, Tamra will talk to her hospitalist colleagues about other hospitalist patients. And when Dr. Palmer or Dr. Sturgill is on and Tamra's not there, but I am, I will call them just the same. So it's
Right.
not just that it's just us. I think
Right.
that's just the collaboration that we're establishing as a department and as a group, inpatient
Right.
group of physicians. So.
How many pediatricians in both of your fields are at Monument? Do you know, like, kind of general ballpark number?
So there are 3 total peds hospitalists now.
Okay.
We have myself, Dr. Amanda Sturgill, just started as a full-time hospitalist, and then Dr. Alicia Palmer does like a 0.3-ish kind of schedule, so she works 1 day a week.
Okay.
But so that's the 3 of us are one of the faces that you'll see at this point.
Is it are those enough, or do you feel that there could be more?
I would like there to be more
Sure.
in the future.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Kyle? Same?
I'm it.
You're it. You are it. Yeah.
I'm the only one in this region that can do my job. When I'm not on or can't work for 3 months, we have locums doctors, which are travel doctors that they come in and work a week or more at a time to just keep the unit going, and they provide good care and just keep everything going when I can't be there. So.
Okay. Well, let's get into the heart of this whole podcast today. Now that we kind of been an introduction to both of you, and see, this was easy. You did a great job already. But let's talk. We're heading into summertime right now, and like I said, you've got 5 kids of your own, and every parent wants to protect their children, but doesn't want to overprotect their children. I get it. I only had 1 child myself. But I found myself in those traps of, oh God, I don't want you. Please don't climb that. Please don't do, but at the same time, go ahead and fall off, right? Just get a little bruise. But as we head into summertime, what are some of the most common injuries you see in kids when the summer months roll around and everybody's finally free for a minute?
One of the more common ones that we see that I hate seeing because it's totally preventable are lawnmower injuries.
Oh, boy.
And so, a lot of these actually come by dad, mom, whoever, especially in the lawnmower, and the kid was supposed to be inside or in a different part of the yard, and they don't realize that they came over and they go to turn or back up or whatever, and there's the kid, and then the kid gets injured. The injuries can be anything from just something being flung out by the lawnmower and getting in the eye or causing an abrasion. But unfortunately, the majority of these accidents lead to some kind of amputation or loss of limb or a finger or a permanent disability. So that's one that I really hate seeing. Especially, it's only about 25% of the injuries that come by a kid riding on a riding lawnmower with a parent or grandparent or whoever. I get it. I'm a dad. I can totally see where you think that that's a great way to spend time and they would love it and it's fun for the kid, but it's just super dangerous and can lead to really significant injury. So that's one of the common ones. It happens about 9,000 to 10,000 times a year. So it's not infrequent.
No way.
Yep.
That often.
Yeah.
And that's serious, I guess, is what I'm so surprised about, too.
Right. I mean, you think about it, that's the blade going around and, it's worse than, a fan blade that you stick your finger in or whatever, but you just happen to get caught in that and you're going to have significant injury.
So obviously that's a pretty serious one. I would be hard pressed to think of really another one that's as bad as that's maybe preventable. that what I'm trying to say? Maybe.
Yeah.
So if your kids are out, I mean, because we have the Black Hills around here. Lots of people head up into the hills. Lots of people love to spend time up there, and I can't imagine the amount of injuries that can happen just up there, right?
Usually, probably more from like falls or that type of deal. I would say, or like snake bites. We definitely see.
That still that's a big deal around here still?
It is still. I mean, even up on like M Hill, there's baby rattlesnakes, and baby snakes are more poisonous because they can't control their venom when they bite, so they'll actually release more venom at times than an adult snake might.
So when you guys see injuries like that in a kid, what typically, specifically for that, what are the steps you take when a child comes in bitten by a snake? What happens?
Initially, it's a physical exam, seeing how much swelling there is, assessing their pain, and then there's usually blood tests involved to sort of monitor to try to help figure out if they need an antivenom or not.
Oh, so an antivenom isn't automatic in some bites?
No.
Why is that?
I think just because of the risk of the venom itself, the antivenom can cause an allergic reaction as well, and so it's also a very expensive treatment, and there's limited quantities of it.
So how do you keep kids safe around stuff like that then? What precautions do you recommend for kids that are up at M Hill or just in the Black Hills around rocks? And
I mean, a lot of it is just being alert, looking down, looking up, enjoying the scenery, but also looking down to where you're walking around. And not that we've always been great at this with our kids, because I will totally let them go out in like Chaco sandals and stuff like that. Yeah. But if you're going out hiking and things, closed-toed, hiking boots would be best, and long pants.
Okay.
Sort of deal would be kind of your most preventative. And then just, being aware of your surroundings and watching where you're going. I know we've stepped over a snake before on a hike, and then you're like, oh, wow, okay. We all need to look down a little bit more, pay attention. Thankfully, that one wasn't looking to bite us.
That one didn't care, yeah.
And one of our sons is like, I went down and I was going to grab the stick, and then it wiggled. And I was like,
oh, my gosh.
Okay, great. That's great. I'm glad. Let's keep moving, please. Like,
at least it didn't rattle. So
yeah. I mean, it was like a black, it was probably like a water snake or something when we lived in Missouri, but... Anyway, still, I don't like snakes.
I'm fine either way. I guess if I see one, I'm not going to lose my mind, but at the same time, I don't want to see one.
Right.
I just don't want to be around one.
Right. It's not like mice. If I see a mouse, I'm like,
well, they can, because they're just creepy.
Right.
Alone. They get everywhere. I suppose another big issue that happens here in the summertime, and again, we don't have huge windows for this, but heat exhaustion and heat stroke and things like this when kids are out playing. I don't think a lot of times you think about that, because if you remember when we were growing up, we'd go out, we'd play, you'd get really terribly sunburned, which of course is another big deal. You've really got to be careful of what we've learned can happen as you get older. But how do you, what steps do you take to prevent that when it's a nice 90-degree July day and your kid wants to be outside the whole time?
Hydration.
Really?
Water's great, but the hotter it is where you're sweating more and more, you need to start having electrolyte replacement. So like Gatorade, Powerade, any kind of electrolyte kind of a drink is better when you're sweating more like that. And then making sure that you're taking breaks to stay hydrated. Kind of the early onset of those heat style injuries are just heat cramps. So if you notice your legs are cramping or your arms are cramping, that's kind of the first sign that, hey, I maybe not be as hydrated as I thought and maybe losing more electrolytes than I thought. I should chill out for a little bit, maybe even stop for the day, but at least get hydrated, make sure they go away before you keep going.
Well, how do you recognize that in like really young kids that may not understand what's happening? How do you as a parent recognize that?
I mean, if they're still like in diapers, you're you're watching for just kind of their urine output. Are their diapers as wet as they normally would be, the nice and plump, kind of deal when you change them. So if you're noticing a decrease, or even a toddler, like, are they going to the bathroom? Is their pee turning a darker color than what it normally is? Would be,
are they not wanting
kids.
To keep playing?
Right. Are they getting tired? Sometimes kids will complain even of like a headache. What I was going to add to that is we're definitely in a drier climate up here. Mm-hmm. It's not nearly as humid, and so it's a lot easier to not recognize how much you're sweating because it evaporates so quickly versus like we grew up in the South at 110% humidity. So you knew you were losing all this fluid because your clothes were just drenched with sweat if you were outside. So you, I think, thought about drinking a little bit more just because you knew you were sweating, whereas up here, I mean, maybe the armpits of your shirt are wet, but that's it. Like, you're not just covered in sweat. And so kids don't have that, like, physical reminder of, no, you've actually, lost a lot of fluid. And so
we don't feel, because we're 8 months out of the year, we're in jackets and flannels. I mean, I'm in a flannel now, and it's early June. But I don't think we think about it in a lot of instances because it's just a nice day.
Right.
And we get to be out in it.
Right. And then going back to the question, you can get heat exhaustion and then heat stroke. So
what's the difference?
Right. So the easiest way to think about the difference is, are you sweating or not? Like, is your skin moist or is it not? So if you're starting to have headaches and dizziness or other symptoms other than just cramping, but you still have moist skin, then you're at heat exhaustion. If you're starting to lose consciousness, but you're going to have dry skin, for sure, that's a heat stroke. And obviously, both of those can be life-threatening. Both of those are really serious. You need to get to an emergency room because at that point, you're probably so dehydrated, you're probably not going to be able to just replace it orally with just fluids and that kind of stuff. So just making sure that you still have wet skin versus dry skin is the easiest way to think about the difference.
Oh, that's okay. Very interesting. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have made that connection.
I'm not the smartest person. I have to have easy ways to remember stuff. So,
well, it's been working. Also, a lot of time. This is the year when we get It's fair that we barbecue all the time out here because we don't get those long, hot months. So in January, people will fire up barbecues if it's 45 degrees outside. Are there dangers and risks that you need to watch for kids when you're outside doing that sort of stuff too? I mean, obviously, that stuff is hot. Mm-hmm. We should think to ourselves, don't let your children around hot things like that. But obviously, that's got to be a concern. Do you guys see those type of burns that come in during the summertime as well?
Not
or even
as
with the
often as you would think. Not from like cookouts. I think that's the one that people, it's an obvious kind of deal. This is hot. Don't touch it. Mm-hmm. So I won't say that we've never seen a burn from a kid putting their hand on the grill, not knowing it was still hot or something like that. But it's not as common.
Campfires are probably a little
bigger
bit
deal.
Campfires are sparking or falling.
And the coals don't look hot anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
so they go
hot.
play, but they're still hot.
Okay.
So just being, mindful around the campfires of, not horsing around. That's probably one of the times that we've been over anal with our kids when we have been camping of like, there's no horseplay within 10 feet of the fire. Like, stop messing with your brother kind of deal.
Because one of you is going in.
Yeah.
What about 4th of July?
4th of July, obviously, big potential injuries.
Yeah.
Depends on the year.
Really?
You probably see more injuries in like older teenagers
Somebody
to
loses their fingers every
young
year.
20s, boy usually, right? But because of the age, we don't usually see as many in kids. But any kind of fireworks are dangerous for kids, even sparklers. I think as we talk about injuries, we have to preface, we're going to give you the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations. That's not necessarily what Kyle and Tamra do at home.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily the best thing to do, but we're going to tell you the AAP recommendations.
Yeah, I think hearing that from, two doctors in pediatrics, I think they like to hear what you just said because their parents are always stressed out about stuff like this, right? And it's a lot of it, hate to say, but it's common sense too, right?
Right. That's what all of this is, right?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to tell you don't use sparklers, but have we let our even smaller kids use sparklers, but we're the ones holding their hands with it and making sure they're staying back? Yes. Kind of depends on how old are your kids, how obedient are they, making sure they stay back as far as possible on the sparkler, but really assessing your kids and just trying to keep it as safe as possible. But I mean, really, technically, there's no safe age that you really should be using sparklers, right? They could always cause harm and that kind of stuff, but... Yes, they can. I have a scar in my palm from exactly that incident. And please don't hold bottle rockets.
Please don't hold bottle, yes.
Or Roman candles.
Oh, but come on. That's how you show how tough you are when you're 13, right, Doctor?
That's how I shoot them at my brothers.
That's right.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, there was one year that we actually did do home fireworks, even though they're not recommended.
Right. Yep.
But we succumbed to the peer pressure of our children and
You were weak.
Huh?
You were weak.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was only me. And we started this. I don't know if we started. It was the year we did this. It was our 4th of July that year. And for whatever reason, we didn't go see the city fireworks. It was the first year after COVID, I think. So I don't know what was happening that summer either, if there was even a big set off. So everyone got their own half-gallon of ice cream, flavor of their choice.
Nice. Good start.
Also a recommendation for the American Academy of Pediatrics.
They did not consume it all in one night.
Mostly.
They did it in 2. But then we had fireworks that we set off, and it was, they were like, we were well back. We had a very long driveway. Everything was at the end. So, we were trying to take some precautions, common sense stuff. So we had everybody, way back. And, of course, the younger ones were, this is your chair. Don't move from it, blah, blah, blah. But our older 2 were, our oldest would have been like a freshman, I think, in high school at that point. And so he wanted to light one of it wasn't a bottle rocket. What was it? I don't know. There's a little chamber that you set the ball down in, and then you let the flame.
Right. A tube and then shoot up.
And then it shoots up. But we had bought 2 different packages, and so the tubes were ever so slightly different. But he knew what he was doing, and we're like, okay.
No, I gotta let everybody know if they're not watching the video. She knew what he was doing with air quotes. Okay.
And so he put it in the wrong tube and lit the fuse. And about the time that I was like, wait, that's not right. The tube falls over, and I'm like,
no.
run, and it shoots out across our driveway, basically chasing him. Never saw him run so fast.
But do your kids...
But he did not, nothing bad happened with it because we were, I think, aware, and we're like, he was already moving back from it. It was like you light it, you run back kind of deal. So he was already moving, but I was like, go faster.
Do you feel that your kids have done a little more dangerous things because you both are pediatric doctors? Do you think that's ever crossed their mind? Be like, look, I can do this because I got 2 doctors at home. I'm fine.
Not really, because they know that they're not going to get treated unless something's really wrong. Like our daughter the other day.
They have to really convince us something's broken to go to the hospital.
Our daughter the other day was like, well, I'm just not going to tell you that it hurts because you're just not going to do anything about it anyway. So what's the point? So, no, I don't know that they do.
Oh, that's great.
The one broke his ankle one time, and it took at least... he came in and was like, my ankle hurts. And I was like, okay, well, let's just give it a little bit, see if you can walk it off kind of deal. And 3 hours later, he got it from the dinner table and was hobbling across the floor. And I was like, wait, your ankle still hurts? Come here, let's actually examine it. Oh, shoot, you broke it. Okay.
Well, look, we all make those mistakes. What about one final thing for summertime? What about stuff like bugs and things like that we get? Do we ever have a danger of disease carrying bugs out here? Ticks, I suppose,
yes.
could be one for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you got to watch out for?
Technically mosquitoes anywhere could technically have West Nile and stuff.
Is that still a big deal? Is West Nile still every once in a while? I know we get cases every year.
Yeah.
It still exists, for
okay.
sure. It's not epidemic proportion or anything, but it does still happen.
Okay. So are those the 2 big ones to watch out for, really? I suppose.
We don't have malaria or something in this area, so.
Brown recluse, spider bites would be.
Yeah.
But I haven't been here long enough to know if we have a lot of brown recluse spiders. So.
I was bitten by one as a kid when I was about 8 or 9. And it's extremely painful.
Yeah.
Is what I'll let people know.
One of the sickest kids I had in fellowship was actually from a brown recluse spider bite. Yep. So they can definitely cause a lot of tissue damage and then a lot of breakdown of the blood cells and swelling and all kinds of stuff.
So if you see something like that, it's obviously don't, as a parent, you think, well, maybe if we can just get through the night with this and see how it looks in the morning.
It's not necessarily a bad decision. It depends on the case. If it's if there's a small bite, there's a little bit of redness, but there's not some significant amount of pain, your kid's acting otherwise normally. It's not wrong to watch it overnight and see. But then area of redness continues to grow, they're complaining of more pain than you think they should kind of deal, because sometimes those bites will not look so bad on the outside, but they'll be very tender around, or they'll really hurt and kids will complain. That's when you should, at least get in to see your regular pediatrician, if nothing else.
Okay.
And where was the bite? Is it around the mouth? Is it on the neck? Those would be more concerning than on your arm or your leg or whatever.
Oh, that just
technically, if it's inside your mouth, you should go see someone quickly.
Immediately.
But yeah, if it's on your face, go get it checked out sooner rather than later, or even on your neck, just because it can the swelling that could be going on underneath that you don't really appreciate can cause your airway or your trachea to kind of close off sooner rather than later. So
okay,
location, not just in market.
And those are the uncommon locations.
Right.
Most of them are going to be on your arms and legs. But yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
What else did you want to cover, doctors? What
I
else
was
is on
gonna
this
say,
list that I missed?
I think to go along with like insect bites, of just talking about like insect repellent.
Sure.
DEET is still considered kind of your
Go-to.
number one go-to, but should only be applying it once a day. There's recommendations of somewhere between like 10 to 30% are your accepted concentrations. The higher the concentration, the longer it lasts. I think you can get it higher than 30%, but you don't want to put it on kids if it's more than 30% concentrated for the DEET. And then clothing barrier is going to be, more protective than not as well. So if you can wear, again, you're out hiking or in the woods. Most kids don't want to wear pants in the summertime if it's warm, but even those like the hiking pants, the quick dry, the wicking fabric, they're not hot. But so if you are going out, like those would be preferred. But if you have exposed skin, spraying it down, you can even put a light layer on the clothing to spray down too would be kind of
excellent.
The recommendation. And then sunscreen to go along with that. Which the recommendation is not to use a combo product. So don't use sunscreen and insect repellent together, but apply sunscreen first and then spray repellent on top of it.
Okay. Now, is there recommended sunscreens now? Because, boy, the debate on this has been just everywhere, right?
SPF 15 to 30 is really all that you need.
Really?
They're looking at they're still doing more research to see if anything greater than 50 is even helpful or not. But most people are good with 15 to 30. That's kind of the big one. And then what is it? Oxybenzone?
Yeah, the oxybenzone. You don't want that in your sunscreen. It can mess with your kids' hormones, is what they've shown in the research.
But any sunscreen is better than no sunscreen. So even if it has oxybenzone in it, it's okay. But if you could find it without it,
that would be better.
And
then the other thing, like for babies, like 6 months and under, you can't put sunscreen on babies. So it's just not recommended, period. So then you're looking at protective clothing barrier, sun hats, the long sleeve swim shirts, sitting in the shade, under the umbrella, that type of deal. So even if you were going out to the lake or the beach, like having a little beach umbrella so that you're just blocking the sun's rays from the baby.
Okay.
And then even after that, like above 6 months, toddlerhood age, the barrier clothing, like all the swim shirts and things are going to be kind of your best, but you don't have to remember to reapply if they're wearing a long sleeve shirt sort of deal.
Yeah.
I will say that the quality matters on those. They do wear out. After so many washings, I don't think they're as effective. We actually had one of our sons, we were out at a lake, like doing a lake day one year, and had on swim shirt, but it was a white one, and I just think it had been used too many times, and he ended up sunburning through it. Just say, wasn't thinking, hadn't paid attention, and if they had their swim shirts on, I didn't sunscreen underneath them.
Of course, yeah, okay.
But just something to kind of think of as well.
Well, and technology keeps advancing in these stages too, which is so nice. That hopefully, it makes your jobs easier. But there will always be the instances, I go back to how we started this talking about the lawnmowers, which I know to you is just a big, big no-no when you have kids around.
Yep.
Whether they're riding on with you or whether you just have them running in the yard, it's best if you're out mowing, kids have to stay inside.
Right.
I mean, I know that sounds, it sounds like overkill, but
where the other parent can monitor them.
Right, exactly.
Outside and just making sure they stay safe.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one more?
Absolutely.
I wanted to touch on drowning.
Yes,
too.
yes.
Because I think there's a lot of questions about what is dry drowning, what is delayed drowning, and all of that kind of stuff. But I think one point to make is, we always see in the movie people floundering around and making all this noise and splashing and everything. And while that happens, it is common for kids to have silent drowning. So they're just kind of bobbing up and down, or they dove in the water and never came up. They may have hit their head, or just whatever happened never came up. And so having people really pay close attention to their kids when they're in the pool, that's always been kind of a non-negotiable for us.
Yeah.
And if you're in a group of adults, because most of the time you go to a pool with friends and everyone else is there, and it's important to assign someone to watch the kids, because otherwise everyone's just like, oh, John is watching them, or whoever else. And switching who's watching them every 15 minutes or so, just to kind of help people stay more vigilant, is always a good idea. And then,
and even case in point, we were at like a public pool, and was like watching, I was paying attention to our children in front of us, and I actually had a lifeguard dive in behind me because there was a kid literally not 3 feet behind me that was underwater struggling and not coming up to breathe, and there was no sound. Like, there was nothing. So just as an emphasis of, they go in and
easy it can happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They go in and they're not screaming above water. They're using every amount of adrenaline that they have to try to break the surface to breathe, kind of deal. But I had no clue, and they were literally right there.
Right there.
So.
Oh, that would be so scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So scary.
And dry drowning is actually when you end up getting a little bit of water in your mouth and it tickles your vocal cords or your larynx. And so then your vocal cords close together really tight and you can't get them back open. So that's called a laryngospasm. And especially you're going to try to take a deep breath, and that can cause some shearing of the capillaries in your lungs. So that can cause some pulmonary edema just to occur over hours to even up to 3 days. So on kids that, didn't even cough or sputter or something, but then start having increased work of breathing or breathing fast, hours or even a day or two after they went swimming, it is something to pay attention to. There might be, dry drowning going on. And then delayed drowning is very similar, but you actually do get a little bit of water in your lungs, but not enough to cause you to drown during the pool event. But then it can cause swelling and everything in your lungs, inflammation and stuff. So then that too can present hours to even up to 3 days afterwards. So those are that's why the news always makes a big deal over dry drowning or delayed drowning. And it is a thing, but you're not going to go into your kid's room overnight and they're just not going to be alive anymore. Right. There's going to be signs, just like with infections and stuff. They're going to work harder to breathe and show signs of struggling before anything really bad happens. But it's kind of important to pay attention if your kid did cough and sputter a little bit at the pool, to watch them a little closer for a few hours, just to make sure that nothing else is happening and that they're doing okay.
You don't have to rush them to the ER just for the cough and sputter.
Yes.
But just to be mindful. And our kids we have had this process happen at our house, not where they ended up with a dry drowning event, but where we were watching them closely, because we have 4 boys. Mm-hmm. And if you can imagine in the pool, what else to do but roughhouse and dunk your brother? And
all of our kids have had to be rescued from the pool
at one point or the other. We had the one who had no fear of water. We took off the floaties because we were getting out, and he's just like, well, I'm getting back in, and walked off into the deep end. And it's like, thankfully, Daddy was still in the pool and just scooped him right back out. But
and my shoulder was functioning.
Yeah,
so.
it was good then. What I think a lot of this comes down to, and I think we can't reiterate it enough, is common sense. And, watching your child and not being afraid to let them experiment. They're going to get hurt. Things like that are going to happen. Hopefully they learn from those hurts that they get, for sure. As doctors, when you guys are just out in the real world, this will kind of wrap things up for me here. And you see things that, you want to say something so bad. How do you handle that? When you see a child specifically doing something that could probably injure them here very quickly, and maybe somebody's not paying attention,
We watch closely and stay silent most of the time.
Really?
Just because it's not like you're not their doctor in that role, and not that I've never said anything, but it's generally not welcomed advice. So if we're in the area, I just may pay a little bit closer attention to that situation as well in case something were to happen if we needed to step in and offer assistance. But we just
That's got to be
And
hard,
probably
though.
depends on how close they are to
Yeah.
injury
and stuff as far as if we would step in and do something. We're also mandatory reporters, so we wrestle with that regularly of like,
What does that mean?
so if we even think there might be any kind of abuse or neglect going on anywhere, we're supposed to report it and stuff. And so to that question, it's always, what am I supposed to do? And so, but yeah, we've hung out longer at a park or someplace because we saw things going on and we're like, we're just going to see how this plays out and make sure that everything is copacetic before we leave.
That's pretty comforting, honestly, to know that there might be instances where you guys are just hanging out,
Just
in the background, just watching. Don't let your kids go crazy, but still, nice to know.
I will say, just even like from the park standpoint of like you're trying to figure out like how much do I let my kid do, how much do I not, and we kind of always had the philosophy with our kids that if you can get up it, you can get down it. But if I put you up it, you might not be able to get down it. So we were,
we looked like
we weren't
jerks.
we looked like lazy parents standing back watching as our kids were struggling on the playground equipment, because we're like, if you can climb up those stairs, you should be able to get back down those stairs. If you can climb up the rope ladder, you should be able to get back down it, kind of deal. Versus putting your kid up on the 6-foot platform and then going, don't fall, kind of deal. We're like, no, and then also, it helps them grow, their motor development, their problem-solving skills. All of those things are part of a kid's development. So you're actually letting them have that observed independence, if you will. But that was kind of our philosophy. But we did have the kid who by the time he was 6 could climb to the top of the roof of the playground equipment. And you're like, okay, great. But he never once fell off of it either. He got there on his own and he knew how to get down and had great coordination and muscle control, and he was following an older brother who he just needed to keep up with. So
now I think you guys are missing a golden opportunity here to profit. You guys need T-shirts for this. You guys need to capitalize, trademark, copyright this. It should be on hats, shirts. It should be on bags that you take out for lunches. Right? You guys are missing a gold mine here on this.
If you pay for the trademark, we'll
get that taken care of. No, I absolutely love this, because what great advice to give. Again, common sense. That's what this whole thing comes down to. But it's just nice to know that you guys are out there. We have a great pediatric hospital, I think, here in Rapid City. Children's Miracle Network, of course, that we've been a part of for decades. We absolutely love. And you guys you do fantastic work. I don't want to overinflate your egos or anything in here, but you do completely. So thank you both for coming in. It's been wonderful talking to both of you, and let's do it again. Tamra, you were amazing. All right. The Doctors Lemley at the Pediatrics Hospital here in Rapid City on Monument Health. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.